The Kingston mansion stood like a palace, its marble floors polished until they shone like glass, and its glittering chandeliers casting golden light across the hallways. But beneath the beauty and wealth of the house, there was an air of tension that weighed heavily on everyone who worked there. Servants moved quickly and quietly, their eyes lowered, terrified of drawing attention to themselves. Every sound seemed dangerous, every misstep a risk. The reason for this fear was the woman who ruled the house, Mrs. Kingston, the millionaire's wife. She was a woman of elegance and authority, but behind her diamonds and silks was a sharp tongue and a heart that seemed untouched by kindness. She expected perfection and had no patience for mistakes. A broken glass, a misplaced flower, or even the faintest delay in her commands could bring a storm of harsh words. The staff whispered about her cruelty, and though they obeyed her every order, none of them respected her. To them, she was power without compassion, wealth without warmth. It was into this intimidating world that Anna, a young maid with calloused hands and a nervous heart, arrived for her very first day. Her clothes were plain, her manner shy, and yet there was a quiet determination in her eyes. She came from a humble background, carrying nothing but the hope of earning an honest living. She had no idea that the mansion she feared would become the very place where her courage and kindness would shine the brightest. The dining hall was as intimidating as the woman who sat at its head. A long mahogany table stretched across the room, polished so finely it reflected the crystal glasses set upon it. Portraits of stern ancestors lined the walls, staring down like silent judges. At the center, beneath a chandelier that shimmered with 100 lights, sat Mrs. Kingston. Her posture was rigid, her chin lifted slightly, as if even the air around her dared not move without permission. It was Anna's first time serving here, her hands trembling as she carried a silver jug of water. The other servants watched nervously from the corners of the room, well aware of how the smallest mistake could turn into a disaster. As Anna leaned forward to pour, a single drop slipped from the jug and landed on the tablecloth. The sound was so small, but the silence that followed made it echo like thunder. Every eye turned toward Mrs. Kingston. The staff braced themselves for her cutting words, the humiliation they all knew too well. But instead of cowering, Anna steadied herself and lifted her gaze. With a soft, humble voice, she said, "I'll clean it right away, ma'am. Thank you for allowing me to serve, it means more than you know." The words were simple, yet they carried a sincerity that pierced through the heavy air. For a moment, the feared woman blinked in surprise, and even the servants exchanged startled glances. It was as if the trembling maid had shifted the balance of the entire room. The afternoon sun poured warmly over the garden patio, where Mrs. Kingston entertained her guests with delicate china teacups and perfectly arranged pastries. The roses bloomed in neat rows, trimmed to perfection, much like the image Mrs. Kingston worked tirelessly to uphold. Her guests, wealthy ladies in elegant gowns, leaned forward eagerly, laughing at her sharp remarks and nodding at her every word. For years, she had ruled not just her household, but every social circle she entered, commanding attention with her wit and wealth. When Anna appeared, balancing a tray of steaming tea, Mrs. Kingston saw an opportunity to amuse her friends. She looked Anna up and down, her lips curving into a cold smile. "My dear," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "perhaps where you come from, plain clothes and a clumsy walk are fashionable. How quaint." The guests chuckled softly, waiting for Anna to shrink back in shame like the others usually did. But Anna only smiled, her voice calm and gentle. "Where I come from, ma'am, even one cup of tea is shared among many. Here, I'm grateful for the chance to bring it to you." She set the tray down with steady hands, her eyes warm rather than wounded. A hush fell over the patio. The ladies exchanged uncertain glances, their laughter fading. Mrs. Kingston's smirk wavered. In that single moment, the power she held, built on fear and mockery, seemed to slip, and the young maid's quiet dignity made her look suddenly very small. The mansion was quiet that evening, its grand halls dimly lit by golden lamps. Most of the staff had retired to their quarters, grateful for a few hours of rest. Mrs. Kingston, however, drifted through the corridor, unable to sleep. Her thoughts were unsettled, though she couldn't quite explain why. As she passed by the servants' quarters, faint voices reached her ears. She paused, curiosity keeping her still. Peeking through the slightly open door, she saw Anna sitting beside the butler, an older man whose face was streaked with tears. His hands shook as he confessed his fear. His daughter was sick, and he had no money left to pay for her medicine. Mrs. Kingston expected the young maid to remain silent or offer empty comfort, but instead Anna reached for his hand. Her voice was gentle yet firm. "Don't lose hope," she said softly. "Riches fade, but kindness always returns to you. If I had money, I'd give it. But what I can give is my time, my prayers, and my belief that good will find its way back to you. Hold on, for your daughter needs your strength." Mrs. Kingston stood frozen, her chest tightening. In those words, she heard a depth of compassion she herself had never shown, not even to those closest to her. For years, she had been feared but never truly loved. Now, watching the maid's quiet grace, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: shame. And beneath it, the faint stirrings of longing for a different kind of life. The morning light streamed through the tall windows of the Kingston mansion, bathing the grand living room in a soft glow. The staff stood silently gathered, their faces filled with nervous anticipation, for Mrs. Kingston had called everyone together. They expected another lecture, another display of authority. But when she entered, there was something different in her eyes, less steel, more softness. She looked at her servants, people who had lived in fear of her for years, and for the first time, her voice trembled. "I owe you all an apology," she began, her words heavy with honesty. "I demanded respect but never earned it. I held power, but without kindness, it was nothing." She paused, her gaze settling on Anna, the young maid whose courage had dared to speak truth with humility. "It was you," she continued, "who reminded me that dignity comes not from wealth, but from the way we treat others." The staff exchanged astonished glances, struggling to believe what they were hearing. Mrs. Kingston, once feared by all, was admitting her fault. Then, turning to Anna, she added, "Thank you for teaching me what no riches ever could." The room, once filled with silent dread, now seemed to breathe. Smiles spread among the servants, soft laughter returning to the walls that had known only tension. Anna lowered her eyes humbly, never seeking credit, yet knowing her kindness had planted the seed of change. Sometimes, it takes the gentlest soul to humble the proudest heart, and transform fear into love.